So,
Well,
I always loved that story. Have you heard that?
Maybe not this part, yeah.
So,
well, what part are you referring to?
when they called your name over the loudspeaker, Mr. Sutton, please come to the lobby. After you took the car across and you goosed it, made a lot of noise.
Oh,
right
okay,
around the first
okay.
time,
Folks, you gotta understand, we had an Enid dynamometer in the back room. Had those, 4 Weber carburetors on those bored out 289s,
yeah.
and they would sing a song like you couldn't believe. Well, approximately 2 very short blocks down the street was this old-fashioned mobile home park
Yeah.
with these absolutely sad-looking trailers in them, and somehow we got a bunch of bad camshafts that had the hard surfacing. Parkerizing didn't work good on them.
Right.
Anyhow, they got a bunch of engines back and they had to redo them. And of course, then after you redo the engines and cleaned them all up and put the parts that were good in them, then you had to run them on the dyno.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't do them all in the daytime, you had to do some of them at night.
Okay.
And you'd be running them way after dark, and they'd be out there just singing their song that just made our hearts bleed. It was so pretty.
Yeah.
And anyhow, apparently the city fathers got a hold of Mr. Shelby or somebody up in the office and said, we're gonna put a stop to that. You can't be doing that.
Yeah.
So then the next morning was this, on the company bulletin board, anybody caught making excessive noise, revving engines up and running the dyno late or something, I don't know what all it said, would be subject to immediate dismissal.
Yeah.
Immediate dismissal.
Immediate, yeah.
You know, it had teeth in it, okay? So I got the forklift, the 427 done at about that time, and I pulled the jack stands out. And when you put a roll bar in that, you have to take the original gas tank out and kind of bash it in so it make room for the roll bar to go in, and then you got an empty gas tank.
Yeah.
So across the street, at the Carter Street where the production cars were built,
Right. Yeah.
was an area where they kept gasoline. So I went over and got some gasoline so I could run it over there, and then I wanted to go over there and top it off, or not top it off, but get something in there to run it a little bit. So, and of course, in the back of my mind, I'm gonna light that baby up, don't you know? And so I got it putting over there, and I put gas in it, came back, and of course, I came around the Carter Street curve and down, and I lit it up, and yeah, it was a thrill.
I'll bet.
Anyhow, so I put it back in there, and then as soon as I got out of the car, Ted Sutton, please come to the front office.
Right.
Okay, so our little office or receptionist gal said, she said, Mr. Shelby, like to see you. And I thought, oh. And she says, I'll call him up and I'll get him for you real quick here. So, unbeknownst to me, he had a surgery on one of his knees.
Yes.
And he was on a cane.
Yep.
And he's up at the top of this, it's kind of a semi-circular stairway,
Yeah.
and leaning on this thing, looking down at me, he says, called my name and said, was that you driving that car out there? I said, yes, sir. And he gave me this real stern look. He said, well, how'd it go?
Yeah.
And I thought, whoa. I got off the hook. I thought he was gonna make the big example out of me right then and
He was
there.
proud of that right then.
Huh?
He was proud of it right then.
Yeah, okay.
He knew the potential.
Yeah, knowing him now more than I did at the time, he was not really in favor of being that kind of
The celebrity.
he wasn't being a maverick.
Yeah.
He's always been a maverick, and he wasn't gonna change now.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
That's great. Yeah.
So tell the rest of the story.
Well, I don't know what made me the crew chief on it and sent it to.
No, he asked you to go for a ride.
Oh, I did forget that part. He came down, he walked around it and looked at it and said, "How's it go?" I said, "Just fine, sir." And he looked under the hood,
Yeah,
and then he climbed in it. And it didn't have a seat in the passenger side because I had removed it, putting in the certain way that we put roll bars in
right.
at that point in time. We either put them in forward diagonally or rearward.
Backman, yeah,
Anyhow, and I put it in the way that I thought was safest.
yeah,
Anyhow, he said, "You like to go with me?" And I said, I said, "I don't have a seat." He said, "Well, you can sit on the floor, can't you?"
yeah,
"Well, sure." He says, "Here, hold my cane."
right,
And so we went scooting around. This is a World War II area, tract industrial area.
right.
Tract homes over on the side and industrial buildings all
Yeah.
around the street. And so he goes blasting around this thing, blowing through stop signs at 40 miles an hour without being able to see cross traffic and ripping around there like some wild Indian that I never
Yeah,
wanted to be around again, you know. It's just, and eventually, I would keep saying, it doesn't have the race brakes on it, it's got the ones that came with the shipping brakes on it, you know. I'm trying to tell him, please don't go so fast.
Yeah,
Pull
yeah.
out some polite way, and anyhow, he got it parked over there, and walked inside, and next thing I know, somebody come down and told me to make a race car out of it.
yeah.
And
Great.
so, and I was just tickled as happy as a sack full of doorknobs, you know, just really good.
Well, that's the way things are done, there had
Yeah.
no committee or anything, Carol would just say, "Let's do it," and you got it done.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah,
And he figured that if somebody made too much of a stink about it, he'd find a way to fix it.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, you know, I know one time, way after I had worked there for years, and he sent me a letter and said, we want to make a museum in the big piney woods of Texas. Well, I know Texas is his home. I don't know anything about the piney woods,
yeah,
but anyhow, so I gathered up all my stuff, a lot of these brochures, even my British Whitworth wrenches that I use to turn
yeah,
the British stuff on there. I gathered up a lot of stuff and I sent it over and gave it to Lou Spencer, and I never heard anything more. And then I tried to ask, and then I found out later that this guy that wanted to make this museum in the big piney wood of Texas had scouted with all that stuff,
oh, yeah.
including my Cobra jacket and
Oh, really?
oh yeah. So I was pretty disgusted, and I thought maybe somebody volunteered to go get it back, because I heard that they took some of his cars with it that he had donated to it,
Yeah,
and I think he went over there and sent a bunch of goons over there to tell him how it's gonna be.
yeah, yeah.